On November 5th, Frau gathers the notes she's been jotting down for months. She's finally ready to write a detailed report about how she got trapped in a cabin in the mountains. It all began in May when Frau went on vacation with 2 friends and their dog, Lynx. She wasn't used to animals and felt awkward around the poor creature. When they arrived at the cabin, the group settled in, and her friends decided to check out a pub in the nearby village. Exhausted, Frau stayed behind with Lynx. Bored, she tried to pet him, but Lynx snapped at her. The rest of the evening was uneventful. She spent her time doing beauty treatments, smoking, and exchanging uneasy glances with the dog. Eventually, she turned in early for the night. The next morning, Frau woke up to Lynx whining at the door. She let him out to do his business and then wandered around the house, only to realize her friends were gone. Panic set in. Where could they be? Something didn't feel right. Determined to find them, she started walking toward the village, with Lynx leading the way. But suddenly he yelped in pain. Rushing to his side, she saw him rubbing his nose against the ground. Yet there was nothing visible that could have hurt him. Frau kept moving, but Lynx turned back toward the cabin instead of following her. Then, just a few steps later, she walked straight into something solid, yet completely invisible. Stunned, she reached out and ran her hands over the air. There was an invisible wall blocking her path. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She pressed her palms against the barrier, but it wouldn't budge. What was happening? Why weren't there any alarms? Why wasn't anyone from the village rushing to see what was going on? With no way forward, she had no choice but to turn back. Further down the road, she spotted a farmhouse with 2 people inside. Hope flared, but as she tried to approach, the invisible wall stopped her again. She was trapped, and she had no idea why. Frau calls out, but her voice doesn't go beyond the invisible barrier. The farmers in the distance remain frozen in place, as if time has stopped, except for the water still flowing from a tap. Realizing no one can hear her, she gives up and returns to the cabin. She lights a cigarette, coming to terms with the fact that Lynx is now her only companion. But she refuses to accept it. Desperate, she heads back to the road and pushes against the barrier again. Nothing. Defeated and unsure what else to do, she goes to bed. That night, a strange noise startles her awake. She rushes to the door to investigate, only to find that the barrier has now moved, blocking the entrance to the house. Panic grips her. She screams, but then suddenly wakes up in bed again, Lynx beside her, as if nothing happened. Shaken, she checks the door. It's normal. Trying to clear her head, she steps outside for a walk. Later, when writing in her journal, she realizes she doesn't even remember what else she did that day. The weight of her reality seems to cloud her mind. At 2 in the afternoon, she returns to the cabin and grabs her friend's binoculars, scanning the area. The couple at the farmhouse still hasn't moved. A chilling realization hits her. They're dead, and so are the villagers. She wonders if she made the wrong choice by staying behind. Maybe she should have left with her friends, even if it meant facing the unknown together. Just then, Lynx starts barking and dashes off. Frau follows and finds him standing in front of a cow. Fear grips her at first, but then she cautiously approaches. The cow seems calm. Realizing she's not alone after all, Frau leads the animal back to the cabin, grateful for the milk it will provide. She names her Bella, knowing she is both a blessing and a burden. The next morning, determined to escape, Frau gets into her friend's car and speeds toward the village. If she goes fast enough, maybe she can break through the barrier. She even spots an abandoned car on the other side. It gives her hope. But when she reaches the barrier, the car slams into it like a brick wall. The impact leaves her injured and bleeding, but she barely notices. All she can do is press her hand against the invisible force, lost in thought. For the next 10 days, she keeps trying. Again and again, she searches for a way through. But the barrier won't let her go. Frau finally accepts the harsh truth. No one is coming for her. Lying in bed, she breaks down, crushed by loneliness. The thought of ending it all crosses her mind, but then she remembers. The cabin is stocked with supplies, left behind by her friends. She decides to survive, not just for herself, but to honor their memory. Among the supplies, she finds plenty of firewood and a sack of potatoes. Determined to make the best of her situation, she steps outside and starts a small potato farm. Her loyal companion, Lynx, eagerly digs beside her, helping in his own way. Each morning, Frau winds the clocks and marks off the days on a calendar, clinging to some sense of time. On May 30th, a heavy rain keeps her inside. That's when she hears a strange noise. Gripping a knife, she cautiously investigates, only to find a drenched, shivering cat meowing at her door. She takes it in, and just like that, her little family grows. Now, she has 3 animal companions, but Lynx remains her closest friend in this lonely world. Eventually, she realizes she needs more than potatoes to survive. She decides to hunt, despite never using a gun before. Her first attempt is a disaster. The recoil knocks her back, leaving her bruised, and the frightened deer escapes. Disheartened, but not defeated, she keeps exploring and stumbles upon the wreckage of a car. Inside, she finds a radio, but most stations are just static. Only one plays music, a ghostly reminder of the world beyond the barrier. Then, she discovers a map. A spark of hope ignites. She decides to follow it, aiming for the valley. With Lynx by her side, she treks for hours until they come across an abandoned truck. But an impassable barrier blocks their path, forcing them to turn back. Over time, Frau memorizes the roads and shortcuts within the barrier, allowing her to reach the valley and return home in a single day, never leaving her animals alone for too long. She finds other cabins, but they are always empty, ghosts of lives once lived. Still, she salvages anything useful. One day, lying on the grass with Lynx, bathed in warm sunlight and surrounded by birdsong, something shifts inside her. She feels a deep connection to nature, a peace she hasn't known in ages. But when hunger pushes her to hunt again, guilt gnaws at her. The image of the deer writhing in pain before it dies haunts her at night. Survival is cruel, but she has no other choice. Frau never writes about her first hunt. It disgusts her too much. One stormy night, thunder rumbles so loudly that she struggles to sleep. The next morning, she hears a strange noise from the cabinet. When she opens it, she finds her cat has given birth. The kitten is small, scruffy, and completely white. Frau names her Pearl. Over time, the tiny creature grows into a beautiful cat. Caring for the animals becomes Frau's new purpose. She realizes that instead of dwelling on her own fears, she focuses on their well-being. In a way, they replace the responsibilities she once had in her old life. On July 20th, Frau begins harvesting hay from the meadow. Lynx watches over her in silent support. The work is exhausting. Her hands ache, her body protests, but every day, she hauls the hay back to the cabin. On the way, she always glances toward the farmhouse. The barrier remains. 3 weeks pass before she finally clears the entire field. The struggle to survive starts weighing on her. Overwhelmed, she breaks down in tears. But no matter how hopeless she feels, she refuses to give up. Her animals need her. Depression sets in, keeping her inside for 2 long weeks. Eventually, she gathers the strength to step back into the forest, where she discovers fruit on the trees and vegetables hidden in the earth. Slowly, she builds up enough food to last through winter. Now, she and her pets enjoy better meals. One day, she spots strange clothes hanging from a tree. Fear grips her, until she realizes it was only a nightmare. Autumn, once her favorite season, brings restless nights and worsening dreams. Then she falls sick with the flu, leaving her drained and exhausted. Through it all, Lynx stays by her side, his steady presence lifting her spirits. She marvels at how he never seems grumpy, often hugging him in gratitude. But in the present, Frau reveals a painful truth. Lynx is gone. Still, she finds herself talking to him on her daily walks, as if he's still there. On October 27th, the first snowfall arrives but melts within days. Then the warm winds come, howling endlessly through the night. Sleep becomes impossible. When the wind finally dies down after 3 days, Frau steps outside and finds Pearl lying lifeless in the snow. Heartbroken, she buries the cat properly, with Lynx watching over her one last time. One cold winter day, Frau spots a fox by the stream. She raises her gun, ready to shoot, but she can't do it. Pearl's death still haunts her. She realizes she's the only creature in the forest that understands the difference between right and wrong. In the end, she chooses mercy. Back in the cabin, she brushes Bella every day, thinking of her as a sister now. She notices the cow growing rounder and wonders if she's pregnant. But as food runs low, Frau has no choice but to hunt again. The feeling of the deer's warm heart in her hands when she cleans it keeps her awake at night. On January 11th, she notices Bella bleeding. She stays by her side all day, and by evening, she helps her deliver a beautiful calf. Outside, the snowstorms rage on. Frau sinks in a deep sadness, barely getting out of bed, until Lynx forces her to. The thought of leaving this world crosses her mind, but she knows she must stay for him. When winter finally ends, Frau decides to leave the cabin and move to the meadows. On May 25th, she gathers all her animals and sets off toward their new home. When she arrives and sees the lush, open fields, something shifts inside her. For the first time in a long while, she feels hope. She no longer needs to write down her thoughts. Her days are peaceful, spent with the animals, the stars, and the endless sky. But when October comes, she starts journaling again, preparing for winter by stacking more firewood. As the cold returns, her memories blur. On December 10th, she finds an entry she doesn't even remember writing. Time passes fast. As the snow falls again, she grows more reflective. She wonders, are humans and animals all just wandering through life, trapped by forces beyond their control. One day, Frau notices a white crow flying around her house. Unlike the others, this crow is ignored by its black-feathered family. She finds it beautiful and feels sorry for how the other crows treat it. Wanting to help, she leaves food for the white crow whenever the flock leaves it behind. 2 years pass inside the barrier. By now, Frau has forgotten her old life. She has given up hope of being found. In early June, she moves to a new house with her animals, hoping a change will lift her spirits. But the magic of her first summer is gone. One afternoon, while walking with Lynx, her loyal companion, he suddenly hears something and sprints ahead. Frau follows, only to freeze in horror. There's a strange man slaughtering Bella's son with an axe. Lynx leaps at the intruder to stop him, while Frau runs inside to grab a weapon. But she is too late. When she rushes back, Lynx is already dead. Blinded by fury, Frau shoots the man without hesitation. Then, trembling, she clings to Lynx's lifeless body, grief swallowing her whole. Bella, wailing in sorrow, finds her dead son. With no remorse, Frau drags the man's corpse and throws it off the cliff. She feels nothing anymore. With Bella and the cat, she leaves again, moving to another house. Life goes on, but without Lynx, she is left alone with her thoughts. In the present, Frau says she has moved on, carrying the memories of her beloved animals as her reason to keep going. She writes her final report on February 25th. Her paper has run out. Then, stepping outside, she feeds the white crow one last time. That is how the movie ends. Please like the video and subscribe for more videos.